nervous because I'm here now.
Hey guys, welcome into another episode of 410 Sports Talk. James Haskell, Glenn Martin, my co-host. We are excited, elated, all of the synonyms with excited. The Ravens just pulled off a victory in the game of the year easily. One of the most entertaining, incredible, suspenseful games I've ever seen in my entire life. Holy crap. The Ravens win. Actually, the final score was 47-42 because that last play was a safety. Yep. Sorry, all you bettors out there. But we are excited to get into it, Glenn. We won. We are now, 8-5. We're in it. We're in the thick of it. Holy crap.
Yeah, I mean, game of the year is absolutely right. That is not an exaggeration. This game was won multiple times by each team. It seemed like whoever had the ball last was going to be the team that won. Luckily for the Ravens and for us, they had the ball last, and we have Justin Tucker and Lamar Jackson because, wow, they are clutch. First, before we get too far into it, I do have to give a couple shout-outs here, Jimmy, because we had our weekly competition. This time it was which running back would get the first carry. So we have to give a shout to our back-to-back champion, Daniel Kunimoto. I mean, this guy's on fire.
On fire.
I mean, any competition, bring it on. He knocks it out of the park.
He's Lamar Jackson, 4th and 5.
He is. So shout out to Daniel, as well as Dedrick Humble. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing. But shout out to Dedrick Humble as well for guessing J.K. Dobbins would get the first carry out of the running back group. And this was a close one because if you guys remember the first play of the game, Ingram looked like he was going to get the carry, and then he pitches it back to Lamar for a flea flicker. So
the sorriest looking flea flicker I've seen in a long time.
It didn't work out, and we also never saw Ingram the rest of the game. But we're going to get into that in a moment. Jimmy, why don't you give us some health context, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So while we did win the game, we did not come out unscathed. Obviously, the story of the game will be Lamar Jackson, who already in his post-game presser set the story straight that this was not a Paul Pierce scenario. He did not have to use the bathroom. He was seriously cramping. And in fact, he said in his presser that he didn't start heading back to the field until Trace McSorley got hurt. So that's how limited it was between prep time, out on the field, biggest player of your career at this point, most likely, and just absolutely dominate. But Jimmy Smith, of course, left with that aggravated quad, didn't come back, and that's a problem moving forward. Ricard got banged up. I don't have a ton of details on that, but it looked like it was either a dead arm or my bigger concern would be like a broken wrist or something like that. So I hope it's not that, but I wouldn't be surprised. Trace McSorley, of course, goes down with what appears to be a pretty bad knee injury. So we might be headed to our backup out of Utah, Huntley, my boy. So Tyler Huntley might end up being the backup. But the other news, too, I think it's important, and Glenn, you brought this up, is that Averett, the corner, was a healthy scratch. We both are pretty sure in that. Yep. And I tell you what, that was a decision that I think John Harbaugh regretted as soon as he saw Baker Mayfield start shredding our third, as soon as Jimmy went down, really. Yeah. And our 4th and 5th corner and our 8th and 20th and 38th corner started coming out on the field. It was a problem. So we didn't come out healthy, but we came out with a victory, and hopefully, these guys are able to get back.
Yeah. Let me get into some stats though, Jimbo. I will start with I'll start with the losing team. I'll start with Cleveland, save the best for last. Baker Mayfield goes 28 of 47 for 343 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Landry throws in 1 pass for 12 yards. Nick Chubb, he has a good day on the ground, 17 carries, 82 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Kareem Hunt goes 6 for 33 and a touchdown. And Baker Mayfield, 5 carries, 23 yards, and a touchdown, as he does his best Lamar Jackson impression. And then receiving the ball, man, Kareem Hunt is a receiving threat, Jimbo. He has 6 catches for 77 yards and a touchdown. And Jimbo, that didn't just come against safeties and linebackers. That last one, as we all know, the most important of all his catches, came against Marlon Humphrey. And we'll get into that in a second. Then
I'll tell you what, though, his out and up is vicious,
on Fort.
Right?
Yeah, that little wheel route he ran, that was vicious on Fort. Yeah, he cooked him. Donovan Peoples-Jones, He has 3 for 74. Rashard Higgins, who I think is still looking over his shoulder for Marlon Humphrey to punch the ball out, has 6 for 68 and a touchdown. He was terrified of
Yeah.
Marlon
You
Humphrey.
see
That was
the
hilarious.
wide receiver coach had to give him a hug
He's
after
like,
that.
come on, man. Every time Marlon's near you, the ball's on the ground. But then Jarvis Landry pitches in 6 for 52. And Njoku, who was really hurting the Ravens early and then disappeared after the first quarter, had 3 for 45 early. And then Nick Chubb pitches in 2 for 21. Moving on to the Ravens. Lamar Jackson goes 11 of 17 for 163 and a touchdown. McSorley just 1 for 4 for 13 yards. Lamar Jackson also 9 carries, 124 yards on the ground with 2 touchdowns. He was sensational. J.K. Dobbins, 13 carries for 53 yards and a touchdown. Gus Edwards, your boy, continues to play well despite not getting a ton of work. 7 carries, 49 yards, 2 touchdowns. Another heck of a day for him. As far as receiving goes, Mark Andrews gets 5 for 78 on just 6 targets. And the only missed target he had, if you remember, Lamar Jackson overthrew him on a play where he might have scored a touchdown. It might have been like a 50-yarder. So he played well. Marquise Brown, 2 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown. None more important, of course, than the 44-yarder we'll get into later. Willie Snead pitches in 3 catches for 29 yards, and Boykin 1 for 15. Man, that was a action-packed, offense-fueled. I mean, it's been a while since we've seen a shootout like this one.
Yeah, I tell you what, and one thing I want to mention before we start going back and forth here is that everyone's going to talk about all the plays that Lamar made and the catch from Hollywood and the catch from Mark Andrews. But with Trace McSorley out there, did Willie Snead not make one of the biggest plays of the game on 3rd down where he just grabbed that ball out of the air and said, it's mine?
Yes.
I mean, because that set everything else up from there on after. But if that doesn't happen, I think we were right up against the 2-minute warning at that period, or at that point.
Yep.
So things would have gone real downhill after that. So shout out to Willie. I just remembered that because, you were giving some stats, but man is reliable. I'll tell you what.
He is. That was a big play. And I was worried because I was kind of scratching my head watching the play calling when Trace went in there, wondering why it took till the 5th play for Trace to finally hand the ball off. But yeah, we'll get more into that in a little bit later. But the first thing I want to talk to is our guy, Superman. The reason that background is behind you,
right?
Lamar Jackson. I got a question for you, Jimmy. I mean, is this one of those moments? I mean, he comes out of the locker room, he's ripping IVs out on 4th and 5, returns to the game to not only pick up the first, but to throw a 44-yard touchdown as he's rolling out. I mean, is this one of those signature plays that just can carry a team? I mean, can this just gain momentum? I mean, build the momentum going into the end of the season?
It's starting to feel that way, isn't it? I'm telling you, I've been telling you guys for a couple weeks. If we get in, it's about how we get in. And that was one of those moments that, when you get that boulder to the top of the hill and you start pushing it downhill, it gets a lot easier to push.
Mm-hmm.
And so, look, we might be at the top of the hill pushing down now. And so, yeah, absolutely. One thing I want to say about that play, that's something that I think the Ravens should integrate more. When teams roll out, or they do play action, not necessarily that it was a typical scenario for play action or anything like that. But when they're rolling a quarterback out, whatever the play may be, I was convinced there that Lamar was going to get it. The way that he looked like he tucked it and he was ready to go. I think that's what created that play at the end of the day, because everyone was like, oh crap, he's running, look out. Right. And then Hollywood had time to get open and kind of ad lib off of that. I wonder how much more we can integrate that.
Remember Mark Andrews earlier in the game had the same, on his big play was very similar.
Exactly. So how much can we integrate that in? We've seen it in the red zone with like that Nick Boyle. We make the guy complete, a commit, and then he dishes it Nick Boyle. But how much more of that can we? So I want to see more of that integrated in there. I just heard a really funny quote a comment that said Lamar Jackson dropped. He went in the locker room, dropped a Brown, and then he came out of the field and he dropped the Browns.
Oh my goodness.
Look, how's it go? They are who they thought we were.
They are who we thought they were. They're
That's
still
right.
the Browns. They find ways to lose these big games, despite the fact that, look, we can't hate on Baker. Baker
No.
was good. I mean, look, did they get benefited by the fact that Lamar was forced to miss a couple series? Absolutely. But the fact of the matter is Baker torched our defense. Our
Mm-hmm.
pass rush was non-existent. I mean,
Mm.
it was bad. But yeah, as far as Lamar Jackson goes, he comes out of the trainer's room and he goes 5 of 6, Jimmy, for 82 yards and a touchdown. And his only incompletion is when he clocked it right before the Justin Tucker game-winning field goal. I mean, absolutely incredible. I mean, this was one of those signature moments that will always be looked at for the rest of his career. But
Yeah, I'm
go ahead.
glad that, because I was mentioning this, I was concerned that this was gonna be a Scottie Pippen game 7 moment and
Yeah,
and not a
yeah,
Michael
oof,
Jordan type moment. But when Lamar came back out, now he did
yeah.
what he did. I said, all right, we don't have a Scottie Pippen on. No disrespect to Scottie.
No,
Top
but I
50
think if
player.
you're right,
But
Jimmy, if he doesn't come back and the
for
Ravens
cramps.
lose
No
this
offense, cramps
game,
suck. But still.
Jimmy, if he doesn't come back and the Ravens lose this game, I think you're right. The narrative is bad. I mean, just think of how much the narrative has just changed by the fact of him coming back just in time. Because I mean, there's no guarantee he would have had time to come back if Trace doesn't get hurt there. If he just simply gets tackled, there's not enough time for Lamar to get back. And then
Right.
we don't have this signature play. And then we have this. He left the game in a crucial situation for cramps. It
Yeah.
would not be good. But luckily, we don't have to live in that reality because he
No,
did come back and
sir.
they did win the game. But Jimmy, I got
Woo!
to ask you a question.
All right.
Ingram gets
Give it to
no
me.
touches after the flea flicker. I've been giving no indication that it was due to injury. What do you make of the fact that Ingram has no involvement in the offense after, they said that after Roman said he does all the dirty things, he does all
Yeah.
those nitty gritty.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think it's a great situation for us to be in because heaven forbid if something does happen to one of these young guys,
Mm-hmm.
we have a guy like Ingram that we can rely upon. So I'm okay with it because I've been saying this before. It is a crime against humanity, and I still believe it is. Gus got 7 carries. 7
Turned it
carries
into 49. Yep.
and 2 touchdowns. I mean, he took what's his name? The linebacker for the Browns, Mac Wilson or Mac Williams.
Oh, is he back in there? Mac Wilson? Okay.
Yeah, so he took on Gus in a head-to-head, and he ended up on the ground face down, and Gus was in the end zone. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what it was at the end of the day. So I'm glad that we're in this situation. I say, let's see what we get out of these two guys instead of running 3 and keep Mark healthy. Keep him 100% healthy because if anything happens, hey, we got a great guy back there as far as depth goes.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great situation to be in. He's going to be a good sport about it, going to be the ultimate cheerleader for his team. So I think it's a good spot for us to be in. Certainly. But
I'm hyped about it. Yeah, I was a little nervous that they would take too long to pull the trigger and make this move. So I'm happy that they did it when they did.
And the one thing that you said that I think is interesting is, it's bittersweet to me to see the emergence of Dobbins because I'm a big Gus guy, right? Mm-hmm. But I can't do anything but love Dobbins' game. I mean, I just love it. He's a Raven. I love watching him play. And so I like the combination of the two. Overall, we'd like to see both of them get more carries, but Lamar was doing his thing on the ground. I mean, it was just disgusting. But this is a question I have for you. I was cursing Hollywood Brown's name on I believe it was a 3rd down, and Trace McSorley, credit to him, put the ball right where it needed to be. That would have been a 1st down. He could have caught it and had space in front of him, and it went right through his hands. And unfortunately, that was not the first time that happened in that game. I believe at that point, it was already the 2nd drop that he had. So, but then he makes the catch for the touchdown. Did he do enough to redeem himself? Where are you with Hollywood Brown right now?
I'm
nervous.
A
conundrum.
I mean, I'm nervous about it because before that play, he had 5 targets, and he turned those 5 targets, Jimmy, into 1 catch for 6 yards. In 5 targets before that last play, which to be honest was more on it was on a scramble play where he was able to turn upfield, lose the defender, and Lamar was able to hit him. But it's not like he was able to work himself open. And to me, it wasn't a play where I'm like, wow, he really broke out of the funk he's in. To me, I'm still worried about it. That 3rd down drop, Jimmy, Trace put it on him. I mean, your backup quarterback's in there. You need to make a play for him if you're Marquise, and you let that ball bounce off your hands. I'm sorry. I mean, that was a bad look, and like you said, that wasn't his only drop of the game. I'm worried about Marquise. I'm worried about whether he'll ever develop into that receiver we were hoping he was. But look, shout out to him. He made the catch when he needed to. He made the most important grab of the day, and he turned that most important target into the game-winning. Not game-winning touchdown, but
Game
put us in.
saving, certainly.
Yeah, put us in the lead at the time. But yeah, I'm nervous.
Let me say something about this. One thing, mark my words here. One, the Ravens will trade. They're not doing the draft. They will trade for a marquee. We will get a marquee wide receiver in the offseason via trade. We will, because I think Eric DeCosta is done with it. I think he's done. I don't think he's going to let Lamar go without any weapons, because Greasy, while I'm not always a fan of his comments when it comes to the Ravens, he said it. They have no one to throw to. Lamar Jackson, he has no weapons. Number two is, I said this before, and plays like that make you wonder. I realize he's on COVID, and there's all these things going around outside the field. I mean, with Dez, but in a moment like that in the playoffs, I wonder if we see 88 make. I know he's sitting at home and things like that, but look, I don't think he drops that pass.
Well, I don't know if he does.
But would he get open is the question.
Yeah, that's the big question. Can he still gain separation?
But you will see it in the playoffs. That remains
to be seen. I think. Well, I'm excited to see what he does. Down the stretch of the season, because I think I want to see him prove it a little bit before I start giving him playoff targets. But yeah, hopefully we'll see that down the stretch here. Mark Andrews, I wanted to ask, do you feel good about, was that a game where you like, wow, he bounced? I mean, I guess I wouldn't even say it was just nice seeing him. He comes off the COVID list. He had the diabetes, which is one of those concerning issues. He looked pretty good from a health standpoint to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So number one, just like you said, I'm glad that he has so far no lingering issues, it seems.
Yeah.
None that we know of. He might be, still, getting through some lung pain or something like that, but nothing that we know of. That's number one, just like you said. But number two, it's funny how, he would have had what we consider a typical Mark Andrews game. You mentioned this, that pass that errant throw that Lamar threw to, that overthrew Mark Andrews. That was his only missed, it was the only target that he didn't complete. He would have had 6 for 6 and a touchdown if Lamar puts it on him,
and over
along
100.
with that other huge play. And that's just average Mark Andrews. I mean, that's just incredible to me. He's so talented. I feel great that he's back. Such a security blanket. Had that big catch on third down. Had a multitude of actually really big catches. So I could not be more pleased that Mark Andrews is back. I don't know how I'm going to sleep tonight, Glenn. Like, how am I supposed to go to bed after this?
I'm so jacked up right now. And I'm jacked up even though I lost my fantasy matchup and out of the playoffs on the Justin Tucker made field goal. I was still rooting for him. I wasn't standing next to my computer screen or next to my TV going, trying to blow that. No, I was fine with taking that L for the Ravens to win. That's fine.
We appreciate that. We appreciate it.
And one big reason I feel like the Ravens got this win, and a big shout out we got to give to the Hogs up front, the big O line. I mean, coming into this game with a big time matchup with Myles Garrett. Now he did get banged up with an elbow injury, but he was able to come back in that game. And really, Jimmy, did you hear his name called? I mean, nothing.
No, I think you ran through. I can't remember. You have some of his stats on board, and they're pretty.
He has 1 tackle for loss, 1 solo tackle, 3 total tackles for the game.
Yeah, not great for what a guy that a lot of people consider to be the defensive player of the year. At the same time, our defensive player of the year candidate didn't. Well, I guess he did force a couple.
He had as many tackles for loss as Myles Garrett had, and he, so. Not to say he played a great game, but Myles Garrett should have played a little bit better game. But shout out to Fluker, because there was a play where we know Fluker can run block, but there was a pass protection play where he absolutely embarrassed Myles Garrett, had him 15 yards from relevance to the play as he was left on an island one-on-one with him. So yeah, shout out to the Ravens, because it was definitely a team effort. They were moving Myles around, but a specific shout out to the tackles, Fluker. Look, he is who he is, but I'm glad we got him, because this guy's played left tackle, right tackle, guard. This guy's been everywhere, and he's been solid. So shout out to
and I'll tell you what, it's going to be interesting to see in the future, of course, what happens to Orlando Brown, because there might be a team out there that wants to pay him as a left tackle and play him a left tackle.
It's something we talked about before the season, guys. If you're interested in looking at our older videos, I debated whether or not paying Stanley was the best move because I knew how hard it would be to pay both, and I knew that Orlando could slide over. But hey, look, that's for way down the
Yeah, that's
line.
way down the road. Right now, we're ready to make a playoff run. You're
What'd
absolutely
you
right.
think about them Hogs?
Oh my gosh, I was so happy. What I love about the offensive line play today was that I've said this before. I love and maybe these are the plays I like in basketball and in football. When you know every single pair of eyes on that game knows exactly what's going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
and it's about saying you got to stop me.
Yep.
And I'm going to try and get past you. And our offensive line took their will. I mean, that to me is sports at its best. I love it. I mean, it is just awesome. So I was super happy to see them. Bozeman, he's of course a man of the year candidate, but every game he gets better to me.
Yep.
He's so strong and physical up front, smart, makes the right plays. And I'm also liking the role of Skura as the extra lineman.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's athletic. He can get into the second level. He's athletic enough to keep up with those guys on the outside that are a little quicker, a little, shiftier, and they're not quite as big like the guys on the inside. So I think it's a good fit for him.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, man, I can't give them anything but an A. Geez, just for the end of the game, the way that we drove down the field, we stuck to the run game. Greg Roman didn't wet the bed. He stuck with it.
Yep.
We ran that clock down, and the offensive line won their matchups. My gosh.
Yeah. Now talking about flipping the script though, on the other side, their offensive line also played quite well against the front of the Baltimore Ravens. 0 sacks is not something I expected in this one, especially when I see Jedrick Wills get dinged up, their left tackle. Yep. I really thought that we'd see a little bit more out of the pass rush, but man, disappointing and also not good against the run. I mean, really, it's hard to find a place where the Ravens played well defensively, certainly in the second half. I thought first half when Jimmy Smith was out there, when they had their complement, because remember when the game started, we thought they pretty much had their full complement of players defensively, and man, they look good. But then they started losing guys here and there. That Jimmy Smith goes out, Davis goes out, then Levine's playing nickel corner for us, something we do not want to see going forward. But man, I mean, what's your thoughts on 0 sacks and our now shorthanded and banged up secondary?
I'm not excited about the prospect of that moving forward. One thing I will say is I've been trying to ride with Ngakoue getting there, and I'm not giving up on him and saying, it was a terrible trade or anything like that. I think he had moments this game, and I think he's had moments every game. This is the only thing I'll say. I liked when Judon came back, and look, he got the personal foul, but when Judon gets to the quarterback, dang it, he makes it worth the squeeze. Ngakoue, when you get there, can you hit the guy? Can you stop swiping? So you look like a cat out there, like swiping at a cat toy. Just hit him, right? Like lay some lumber, right?
Yeah, I think he's trying to beat him to the edge, but he always just comes up a little bit short, and he's able to be pushed right by the quarterback, and the quarterback can just climb the pocket, and he's untouched. So I agree with you. He looks like Ngakoue to me looks faster than every other pass rusher we have, and that looks clear. But for whatever reason, he's still not getting home, and that's a problem. We need to see him get home more often, because look, if you're banged up secondary, you need a pass rush to pick up. So they work together, and that's why I asked you that question. And kind of group them together. But Tyus Bowser, man, what a play. He feigns the blitz, drops into coverage, picks off Baker, and darn near takes it back to the house. I'm pretty sure that interception was one-handed. I mean, was it 3 games in a row now he has an interception? Is he finally turning into that player we were hoping? And is there a shot he could be earning another contract?
That's what I was going to say. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do with him in the offseason, because he could be that mid-level, not mid, that middle of the road type value contract that the Ravens would be willing to pay a guy. I mean, obviously they weren't willing to commit to Judon year round. And I think that Bowser is a little bit different than what the Ravens had envisioned him being, as far as what his role is. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. He's playing his role, and he's doing a really good job of it. And so I'm excited about his mobility and athleticism and utility. Yes. I mean, man, you're right. I couldn't be more pleased with his progression. It just it just proves that, look, some guys take a little bit longer than others, right? But it's about the consistent progression that separates the ones that stay in the league and get the contracts and the ones that don't. It's not about, it's the day-to-day stuff. And I think that's what Bowser's getting right. So I'm super happy with his progression.
Yeah, I was happy to see him. Coverage was thing he did great in college, so that was nice to see him continue that in the pros. Now, another guy.
I want to ask this one to you though, because I think this was a concern for you. So, and this was something you picked up on before me. So one of the things I said was I thought in this game was, while it was obviously a high scoring game and there was, I think, 9 rushing touchdowns this game. It's the first time it's happened since 1922.
Was it really?
Which,
damn.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And that happened twice in 1922, and one of them was one team got all 9 rushing touchdowns.
Wow.
So pretty crazy. But
that's a beatdown.
Yeah, what I wanted to say though was, while the statistics don't necessarily show it, I do think there were some plays that Chubb and Kareem would have broken for more if the presence of Calais, Brandon, and Wolf were not there. However, one of the things that you mentioned was that we've seen less of Wolf. He's kind of disappeared as Calais has come back into the rotation. So talk to me about that. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that Wolf, obviously, when Calais and Brandon or just one of them are out, I think Wolf is obviously thrust into a different role. I'm sure he has to play some of the role that typically one of those two guys play. And he was really showing out in that role. I don't know if I heard Derek Wolf's name much outside of the games where Calais and or Brandon were out. I mean, when they were out, he was dominant. He was making multiple tackles for loss. And then all of a sudden, these two guys come back, and I didn't hear Derek Wolf's name called once. So I'm wondering if maybe we need to start putting Wolf back in that role, despite the fact that maybe Calais or Brandon are back to fill the role that they're typically in. Maybe we need to switch him up a little bit, because Wolf was very successful while they were out, and then he kind of disappeared in this one. So I just think it's something to watch and observe, and maybe take note that maybe Wolf might be a little bit better off in that Calais role, and maybe they could switch a little. I don't know exactly what it is, or maybe it's just coincidental. But all I know is Derek Wolf has been much more impactful with Calais out than he has with him in. And that's a little odd, because you think that those two would complement each other and help each other out. But one thing I wanted to ask you. It's
interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting, because I mean, I think you think that they help each other out because you can't, double team them, but something's weird there. It's just something to keep an eye on. It could just be coincidental. Maybe he just had a bad game today. It could also be. But one thing I really wanted to ask you about, Jimmy, we all love the fact that Humphrey and the rest of these guys are getting in the habit of punching at that ball. And I think, man, Higgins was absolutely terrified of that coming again, and he had to get taken out of the game because of it. But 7 forced fumbles today, Jimmy. 6 were recovered by the Browns, and 1 rolled out of bounds, none of which were recovered by the Ravens. Is this just bad luck, bad bounce, or should they? I mean, how do you attribute 7 fumbles and the Ravens get none of them?
Yeah, one of them was a way too premature call by the referees before going to review the play with Landry. I seriously doubt. And look, Browns fans, let me know if I'm just being a homer here and I got, if I'm drinking the purple Kool-Aid, but I didn't see a clear recovery by Landry. I thought he was hand battling with Calais, and Calais came up with the ball.
Yeah.
Not too many people are going to beat him in a battle for a football when it's on the ground.
Right.
So that was pretty shocking to me that happened. But really, to get to the essence of your question, I think you got to keep doing it, but and you got to keep encouraging it. But yeah, I don't really know what the answer. How do you get better? It's so hard. I think it's a bounce thing, because how do you get better at knowing where the ball's going to go when it falls, knowing which way it's like, what I mean? Some
is just bad luck.
Yeah, when you get lucky, it's because you're opportunistic, you're prepared, and you're working hard. Those things, turn into luck. So I think if we keep doing the right things, the ball will bounce in our favor. Yeah, I think you gotta keep going after it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just shocking. 7 fumbles and not one of them gets recovered. I mean,
the one thing I just want to say, the one thing I don't want to happen though is I don't want them, and I didn't really see this today, but I think sometimes they get a little too like punch happy, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you see Marlon do it right, Marlon on go back and look at some of his other ones, he wraps this guy up first, and then that second hand coming in, he gets the ball out. So we can't get too reliant on it, as I guess what I would say.
Yeah. No, I agree. You got to pick your spots.
Yeah.
All right. For this I mean, we had to say we got to talk about the GOAT, Justin
Oh
Tucker.
my
I mean,
gosh.
this guy, he's so incredible. He comes in 55 yards, apparently 19-mile-an-hour wind pregame. He makes it look easy. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. Were you surprised? Let me ask you that. Were you surprised that they didn't ice him at all? They had 2 timeouts, if I remember correctly. Chose to not use either of them.
Well, you know what Stefanski was thinking?
What?
What's the point? Why it's, we're just delaying the inevitable. No, I'm just kidding. I would have done it as well. And look, when Justin Tucker comes out, Tony Romo has said the Harrison Butker is Mariano Rivera.
Yeah.
Look, Tony, you got it wrong. We need to start playing Sandman every time that freaking Justin Tucker runs out there on the field, because it's done. It's over with. I'm knocking on wood here. Look, but Justin Tucker is the GOAT, the greatest kicker. I mean, my gosh, like you said, the way that he nailed that, all the confidence in the world. Yep. I was more nervous about the 4th and 5 than I was about that kick.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, of course.
I mean,
we didn't know what was going on with Lamar at that point, but yeah, I agree with you. I mean, Tucker, it's amazing because you see all the other kickers around the league, and it's just one of those things where we don't know how good we got it with Tucker because
if Parkey hits if he hits his extra point and his field goal, they win.
There you go. Exactly. So it's a big part of the game. There's no doubt about it. I want to get your take really quickly on the penalties. I thought it was an interesting game. The penalties obviously been something that's haunted both of these teams. We've talked a lot about it for the Ravens, but they came into this game the same amount of penalties on the year between both of them. I thought the Jimmy Smith pass interference on 4th down was questionable at best. Honestly, I thought it was a BS call. I was not a fan of it at all. I thought the roughing the passer on Judon could have gone either way. He did lead with the crown of his helmet, but it's just funny. Both teams come into this game with tied penalties, and they both lead still with tied penalties. They both have 8 penalties. The Ravens, it costs them 69 yards, and the Browns 75 yards. So the penalties continue to haunt them. But what were your thoughts overall on the calls?
Yeah, I thought the refs were a little ticky-tacky tonight. I think they were little. I mean, look, they figured, look, we got to be out here in the cold. We might as well warm up, run around a little more, pick up a couple extra flags, throw a couple. I mean, I don't know. Some of the calls on both sides were had me scratching my head a little bit. But at least it evened out in the wash. Because both teams were equally as sloppy.
Yeah.
So the Ravens need to pick it up, though. Look, if we really are serious about making a run, I feel like things are rounding into form, and overall, I think what needs to happen is obviously the penalties need to go away, and we need to round into form in the passing game. I think that's the next step. Because everything else to me is offensively, defensively, that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, so I don't know. I felt like overall it was a little too much for me, and obviously the ones against the Ravens stood out for me more than the others. But yeah, I don't know. Overall, not too much you can do about it in this one. I feel like the referee crew was just real happy to throw their yellow flags out there.
Yeah, I'm getting sick and tired of seeing them this year. All right, we got to move on to our players of the game, Jimmy. And I'm going to start. I'm going to go with defense here, and I got to give it to Tyus Bowser. I mean, it's hard to find a player of the game on defense on either side, so I got to give it to the guy who made the biggest play. He gets the interception off Baker, darn near turns it to 7 himself. Of course, Dobbins was able to finish that drive. That was a huge play in that game because honestly, I mean, neither team was stopping each other. There was no punting, right? And as far as I know, there was no punting today, right? I mean, let's see. Okay, no, there was.
No,
there was a lot of punting. I'm sorry, there was a lot of punting. It was four for Sam Cook and 2 for them. But look, 47 to 42, not a lot of punting. Okay, so
right.
The fact that he was able to get that stop, and not just get the stop, but set him up on the 2-yard line for an easy score, he's got to be my defensive player of the game. Who you got?
Yeah, so my defensive player of the game is not a defensive player. I'm cheating.
What?
Because you took Tyus Bowser. I can't really give it to anyone else, so I'm going with the GOAT himself, Justin Tucker. He's getting my defensive special teams. The only thing he's not getting is my offensive player of the game, but he is getting my Everything else, player of the game.
He's more an offensive player than a defensive player, Jimbo.
Yeah, but I can't make him my offensive. I'm going to give it away here. Obviously, Lamar Jackson is my offensive player of the game. I mean, it would be ridiculous for me to go anywhere else. But I guess, in short, the defense didn't really do much to be given a defensive player of the game. So I'm just giving it de facto to number 9.
All right. Well, then, yeah, obviously Lamar Jackson gets our offensive player of the game. The guy was it was interesting because through the first half, not a lot through the air, Jimbo. I mean, very, very little through the air. Most of it done on the ground. But in the second half, it switched. I mean, for him to end up with 163 yards passing after that, I'm surprised. And of course, the comeback to throw that touchdown to Hollywood, the incredible runs he hit throughout the game. I mean, the guy was sensational, MVP form. And yeah, Lamar Jackson gets our offensive game ball. Well, let us know what you guys think. Let us know who gets your game ball, who gets your defensive game ball. What's your concern level for the defense right now? 1 through 10, where are you at?
And how do we fix it?
Yeah, more importantly, because it doesn't look like, I don't know if it's schematic. What's going on here? Is the secondary being banged up that big of a problem? What's going on? Let us know what you guys think. Was this the game of the year? I mean, I think it was, Jimbo.
Oh, yeah. I don't think there's anything else that's been nearly as entertaining as this game. It was incredible.
Yeah, it was a good one. But let us know what you guys think, and we'll talk soon.
See ya.